400 Years Celebration, Inc. announces its first United Universal Dialogue, a conversation about Africa and African people around the world, Thursday, December 17th through Saturday, December 19th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. You may join us via live stream on Facebook and YouTube at 400 Years Celebration, or visit our website at www.400yearscelebration.org. Special guests include Bishop Seth Olarte, founder and CEO of 400 Years Celebration, Inc., Bishop Adam J. Richardson, Senior Bishop of the AME Church, Bishop Lawrence Reddick, Senior Bishop of the CME Church, Bishop Kenneth Monroe, Presiding Prelate of the Eastern North Carolina Episcopal District of the AME Zion Church, and Bishop William Barber of the Repairers of the Breach and the Poor People's Campaign, along with Dr. Jonathan Weaver, Pan African Collective, Dr. Julius Garvey, Ms. Raina Cotterville, Ms. Janine Scott, and many more. Join us for this important conversation Thursday, December 17th through Saturday, December 19th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time via social media at 400 Years Celebration. For more information, contact Dr. Kathy Thomas McFadden at catmcfadden at yahoo.com. That's KATMCFADDEN at yahoo.com.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to day two of the United Universal Dialogue. If you were here yesterday, you know that we had an awesome time. A lot of information was shared, and we are glad that you are back with us today. How exciting this conversation is. And so, thank you so much for joining us for day two. I am the Reverend Dr. Kathy Thomas McFadden, and I serve as the Executive Director for the 400 Years Celebration, Inc., an organization that was created and founded by our visionary leader, Bishop Seth Olarte, that intends to bring together people from all ranks of life, from every spectrum of our society, athletics, entertainment, politicians, all of those people who will come and celebrate the achievements and accomplishments of African Americans in this country for the last 401 years. And so today's dialogue is about bridging that gap, understanding Africa and the peoples of Africa all over the world, and the issues and the plight and the issues that we need to work on. And so we thought it not robbery to have a dialogue with some of the greatest thinkers, minds across this country whose love is for Africa and all things African. And so today, too, we come to you. And so today's topic, I want you to keep this in mind. Yesterday, we dealt with understanding the health and educational disparities among Africans worldwide and the need for a greater connection. Today's conversation with some great speakers, exciting speakers, the need for an economic wealth and community development initiative. And you know, that yesterday we began our conversation, and a lot of it surrounded economics. I guess you can't talk about health disparities without talking about economics. And so we talked a little bit about wealth and health and education on yesterday. And today I'm excited that we are going to dive right into it again because it becomes an issue in our society and on the continent. And so we want to find ways to begin to eradicate some of the problems that plague Africa and African Americans and Africans worldwide. So yesterday we got started with one solution, and that was creating a 100-year plan, strategic plan of how we combat these issues. And so we again are delighted that you are here with us via Zoom, via Facebook, YouTube, and those of you who are joining us on our website, we say welcome. Those of you on Facebook and YouTube, we encourage you to share this, to start watch parties, because this is a conversation that's long overdue and that we want many people to be a part of. I'm glad that we are recording it, so it will be available, but we ask that you would start watch parties, share this conversation so that others may join us. And I'd like to take this time to present the CEO and founder of 400 Years Celebration, Inc., Bishop Seth Olarte. Many of you met him on yesterday as we introduced him, but he is the presiding prelate of the Alabama-Florida Episcopal District of the AME Zion Church. He is originally from the continent and has lived here for as he would say, since 1983. So he's been here for a while. And so he brings a different perspective from both the continent and the States. And so we are delighted to bring him to us today, Bishop Seth Olarte. Welcome, Bishop.
Thank you again, Dr. McFadden, for a wonderful job. Let me say that you did an outstanding job on yesterday, leading us and guiding us. And here you are again today doing similarly. And we want to say thank you. Let me greet all of those who are sharing with us this morning. If ever there was a time for us to really talk about the future of the continent, that day has come. Because if anything can be said, the world finds itself in a very critical place, and every family, every nation, every institution needs a full impact from all of its people. And Africa is very blessed. Africa is extremely blessed with some very bright people. God has blessed that continent. Certainly, I believe he made that continent after he rested the seventh day. And because it's such a beautiful place, such a wonderful place. And I believe that those of us who are in other parts of the world, let's not forget that it is Africa that made it possible for us to be here. So thank you so much and good morning. I pray that we'll have an awesome and a fantastic day. My task at this time is to present to us the meditation devotional speaker for this moment. And our meditation person is quite an individual. As I read about him, I discovered that he is the 115th bishop in the line of succession in the AME Church. He was elected in 1996. And interestingly, upon his election, he was actually assigned to Africa, West Africa for that matter. And so he comes with a unique perspective. If you have the opportunity to meet this gentleman, this man of God, this cleric, you will discover him to be a very humble individual. He is a kind individual. You know, in Liberia, we will say that he's a big man, but a big man does not mean the size. We're talking about the personality. We're talking about the attributes. We're talking about his giftedness. We're talking about his ability to transform and make life better for others. He's a big man. He's an author. He's married. He's very affable, very generous, very kind. One who is not quiet when it comes to what's happening in the community. He is very engaged, he's very involved. And so from Africa, he now serves the 11th Episcopal area. That includes that of Florida and Bahamas. Bishop Richardson today serves as the senior bishop of the AME Church. And if you are a Methodist and you know anything about what it means to be the senior bishop, it means you are the senior. It's serious, serious matter. And he is the senior bishop and very kind gentleman, very, very affable, very loving, very kind, one who loves the Lord and loves God's people. And so it gives me this opportunity now to present to all of us His Excellency, Bishop Adam Jefferson Richardson, who will come now and bless God's people with the meditation. Bishop Richardson, welcome. God bless you.
Good morning again. And while we are waiting for Bishop Richardson, we wanted to take this opportunity to share with you one of the activities that the 400 Year Celebration Inc. is supporting, and that is the Mercy Ships. As I said on yesterday, Mercy Ships travel to the continent to provide much needed surgeries for people who otherwise would not be able to afford them and would not get them. And so we're going to see a video right now, and we'll be right back with you.
Almost 40 years ago, I took my first trip from Lausanne, Switzerland by train to Italy to look at ships. I listed some of the things that I didn't know or that I'd heard. Things like, you can't do that. It's way too expensive. I didn't know where we would find a crew. In fact, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was 32. That's awfully young. Almost 40 years ago, God took a huge risk. I could say that it all started with a hurricane or reading a book about the famous SS Hope. I could say it started with meeting Mother Teresa or with the birth of our special needs son, John Paul. Or I could say it began with my parents' simple way with grace and mercy and dignity with their small town helping hands. I could say all of those things about the very beginning of the idea that became Mercy Ships, and they'd all be true.
Mercy Ships is a unique organization because it is bringing services to countries that would otherwise never be able to access those services.
The millions of people who either physically or financially do not have access to healthcare are staggering.
You just see people that need help. You realize that they have no way of getting help. And I want them to know that they're loved.
After the rejection and the ridicule and the hard lives that they've had up until this point, then to have a ward full of nurses and the other ship staff, people just pour out so much love on them. Love does make a difference.
People say to me, well, there's all these millions. How do you think you can change that? And we can change the individuals one life at a time.
The ART platform, surgeons, nurses, professionals from all over the world, offering this free of charge at the highest standards is unique.
If you talk to any of the government leaders, as I have, they will tell you how beneficial Mercy Ships has been, not only for their people, but also in terms of a lasting impact.
We're working hard here to leave a legacy of improved healthcare.
Mercy Ships is particularly good at providing not just training, but training with an imbued sense of needing to pass on the training.
We can work together and do things together that we can never do by ourselves.
And so you can see one of the reasons why we have agreed to support the Mercy Ships for the great work that they do. And there are many other organizations that we learned on yesterday that we will be partnering with, because there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. Why not just partner with organizations who are already working, partner with organizations that are already doing great and marvelous things over on the continent? It's time to bridge the gap so that we begin to help our brothers and sisters. The Bible says, am I my brother's keeper? And of course, we know the resounding answer to that is yes, we are. And so in this dialogue, we hope to walk away with not just having conversations, but that we can walk away with a strategic plan to begin to rebuild and build up the infrastructure, which we'll talk about a little bit on tomorrow, the African continent, and to begin to make a difference in the work that we do. And so again, we are glad that you are joining us. We would love to say that we are totally ready for anything that happens, and we are. So I'm going to present our bishop again, who will share a few words with us, Bishop Lartey. All right, so Bishop Lartey, are you ready? All right, while we are waiting for him to return, let us see another video.
À l'école, les pieds faisaient mal, donc ça m'empêchait. Il fallait toujours que j'emprunte la moto pour arriver à l'école. Quand on puisait de l'eau, je ne pouvais pas. Même à l'eau change, je ne pouvais pas. Donc j'étais obligée de rester.
Bon, ce qui m'a trop fait mal, c'est parce que partout où Julienne passait, on la regardait toujours mal. Il y a même des gens qui avançaient des mots. Une femme enceinte, elle peut pas vite se cacher de façon que son enfant ne doit pas ressembler à Julienne. Bon, j'avais ce qui me donnait souvent la force, c'est par rapport à elle-même. Dans ma tête, quand j'ai d'abord vu qu'on a d'abord, Mercy Ship a d'abord appelé Julienne, je pouvais d'abord sauter de joie, de mourir de joie. Je n'avais même pas eu même un peu de soucis quelque part. Mais je sais déjà qu'ici, là, elle peut déjà s'en sortir dans sa vie sans problème.
Maintenant, c'est que je peux y aller marcher avec mes amis. Peut-être que si on va aller se balader, je n'aurais plus besoin de leur dire qu'attendez un peu, je m'assois pour me reposer. Je peux y aller marcher comme je veux. Et c'est très fier. C'est pour ça que je remercie Dieu et Mercy Ship et tout le monde qui m'a gardé là-bas tout au long de mon séjour.
All right, we are back. Thank you for your patience, little technical difficulties and things going on. But again, it's my pleasure to present our bishop, who is a visionary for this whole conversation and for 400 years. And so he is going to share a little bit with us, and then we'll continue on with the day. Welcome back, Bishop.
Thank you so very, very much, Dr. McFadden, and to all of us who are again assembled this morning. This is a very, very timely conversation. And oftentimes, I believe we do not know what God is up to. But if you pause and see what God has been doing over just a few years now, you will discover that something major is about to take place. Something major is about to take place. One of the things that we want to always remind us of, and that was what led to the 400 years celebration, Inc., and that is somehow every 400 years, God does something unique to this earth. For example, if you were to go back and you look at from the time that Isaac's children and others went to Egypt and when they were liberated, some 400 years. And then if you look at from Malachi to Matthew, it's another 400 years. And then if you look at just the precursor to 400 years, who could have imagined that an African American would be elected president of the United States? And if you think about it, his father from Kenya, mother from Kansas, and they would give birth to a child and will name him Barak. And Barak really is a Hebrew word that talks about praise of God. Then we saw what happened in England when a Black princess gets to become a part of the kingdom there. And then right here, out of this 2020 election, something major again has occurred. Not only do we have the first woman to be elected vice president, but we know of her origin. She is an African American, Asian descent. When you look at all of these things and you listen to all of the activities going on, recently the president of Ghana talked about the year of return, and I was told that many African Americans went back to Africa. There is a surge, a resurgence of interest in African Americans wanting to reconnect with Africa. And I think rightfully so, because when you are homeless, when you are mentally homeless, when you are physically homeless, when you are emotionally homeless, when you are homeless, people do a lot of bad things to you. Today we see on many street corners, people standing with signs and saying that I'm homeless and I need something. Some give and some do not give. But when you are homeless, what I'm saying to you, you are in a vulnerable place. And so as long as Africans who are in Asia, Africans who are in Europe, Africans who are in South America, Africans wherever you are in the United States of America, as long as you feel as though you do not have a home outside of where you are homeless. But that should not be the case. As I said on yesterday, Africa has a distinct place in history. Africa has a distinct place in science, in religion, in culture. You name it, Africa has something to do with it. And where we are today is not an accident. If you go back to scripture, in Psalm number 68 and verse 31, it says, princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. And when you talk about Ethiopia, you're talking about Black people. And when you stretch your hand to God, there are so many reasons why you stretch your hand to God. You stretch your hand to God because you need help from God. And you know, if God be for us, who can be against us? You stretch your hand to God as a way of praise. And when you can praise God in the midst of your pain, in the midst of your perplexities, when you can praise God, when you stretch your hands to God, you are saying, in essence, God, I've done all that I know to do, and I'm reaching out to you. When you stretch your hand to God, it is your way of saying, God, I praise you, I honor you, I thank you for every good and every perfect gift. When you stretch your hand out to God, you are saying, God, you are my everything. You are my rock in a weary land. You are my help. You are my water. You are my bridge over troubled waters. God, you are my everything. When you stretch your hand out to God, and I believe, I really believe that Africa is once again stretching out her hands to God. Someone said on yesterday that there are those who do not want Africa to become one of the leading nations of the world. And rightfully so, because of the exploitations and the oppressiveness that have gone on for so long. But I believe that with these kinds of coming together, we can rest assured that Africa will once again rise, and Africans and all of us around the world will once again come together. And by coming together, we're not coming together to hurt anybody. We're not coming together to disrespect anyone. We're not coming together to make anyone feel badly. No, that's not Black people. And that was the reason why we wrote the book, Overcoming Evil with Good. Because, my brothers and my sisters, as we stretch our hands to God, it means that we want to take on the attributes of God. And what are the attributes of God? God is loving. God is kind. God is merciful. God is forgiving. And I want to say it to my brothers and my sisters around the world. We've been mistreated, abused, misused by some of the other race and other colors. But if we must go on, if we must achieve what God has for us, we must pause and forgive all of those who've done anything negative to us. Forgive them and keep pressing on. Because if we do not forgive, we will hold on to the hurt. We'll hold on to the pain. We'll hold on to the anguish. And as long as we are holding on to the pain, the anguish, and the abuse, we'll never stretch our hands to God. But when we forgive them, free ourselves, we can stretch our hands to God. And when we stretch our hands to God, God himself will bring us to that promised land. God himself will bring us to that place where he will exalt us. If you remember, those of you who are Christians, when Jesus Christ was on the cross, that one of the first things he did, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So I want to say to all of us in closing, it has been prophesied. You know, prophecy simply means the foretelling of something that is to come. Prophecy is to call people back to the word of God. And the word of God says here, princes shall come out of Egypt. However, Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. Let us forgive. When we think about what happened in South Africa, let us forgive. When we think about all of the atrocities done on the continent, let us forgive. When our continent has been polluted with guns so that we fight each other, let us forgive. When all of our resources have been snatched out and are being taken and utilized in other parts of the world, let us forgive, because I want you to understand that even though they've done all that they've done and could and can, but God who made that continent still has more under the earth than anyone can even touch, because he is the God who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or we can think. But I want to say to us, if we are going to stretch our hands to God, we will have to let go of the bitterness. We have to let go of destroying each other. We have to let go of killing each other. We have to let go and let God take over. It's been prophesied. God wants to bless us. God is blessing us. He's shown it in all kinds of ways that we are a great people. And no one can hold us down. But if we must stretch our hands to God, we got to throw down the weapons of hate, the weapons of jealousy, the weapons of envy. We know that if God be for us, there's not a soul who can be against us. Yes, it's been prophesied. When you see groups such as Pan-African Collective and the work that is being done, we are stretching our hands once again to God. A strange thing is happening, and I want to invite you to be a part of history as we stretch our hands once again to God. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop. The Bible always talks about be ye always ready. And so thank you so much for those words of encouragement, but also for the truth. It's a time for all of us to begin to speak truth to power. And so thank you for your words. Again, if you are joining us for the first time today and you didn't make it yesterday, we want to say welcome to the United Universal Dialogue. If you're viewing us by Facebook, by Zoom, or by YouTube, or on our website, we encourage you to invite others to join us, to share this video so that others may be a part of the conversation as well. We're going to move right along. It is my pleasure at this point to present Dr. Jonathan Weaver, who has become a very essential asset to the 400 Years Celebration organization. He has become a friend and a brother beloved. He is one of the reasons that all of us are gathered here because of his work that he does over in Africa, and for the connections that he has made with some of the movers and the shakers as we begin to bridge the gap and to lend our support. And he's coming today to introduce our speaker for this morning. So Dr. Jonathan Weaver, who is the CEO and founder of the Pan-African Collective, please come and introduce our special guest. Welcome.
Dr. McFadden, thank you so much. I am very, very grateful to be a part of this extraordinary dialogue, and to the visionary Bishop Seth Lartey, who has become a dear friend. Thank God for you, Bishop Lartey, and to you, Dr. McFadden. It is indeed my pleasure, and I mean that from the very bottom of my heart, to be able to present our speaker for this morning. She is an incredible individual, an extraordinary mover, and yes, a shaker, particularly in the spirit of Pan-Africanism. I was blessed back about 3.5 years ago to meet her shortly after I fractured my right ankle as I was preparing to preach at our annual conference within the AME Church. And even before I had had the surgical procedure in order to get that fractured ankle taken care of, I boarded a plane, went up to Boston, Massachusetts, where our speaker was to be the keynoter at a conference focusing on the rise of non-communicable diseases there in Africa. And I went to invite her to be the speaker for the Pan-African Collective annual breakfast. She readily accepted and came down. That was my first time meeting her, and she has become a dear, dear friend ever since. Today, we have with us the former permanent representative of the African Union to the United States, where she served with great distinction, really making a significant impact and making contact with so many individuals, particularly within the African American community over the time of her tenure as the permanent representative. But she is also a practicing physician for over 25 years there in the state of Tennessee. She is originally from Zimbabwe. She married a Ghanaian, and she's been living in the United States for some time. If there's anyone that is passionate about connecting Black people around the world, she personifies it. Amongst the pantheon of African women, such as people like Winnie Mandela, Ella Johnson Sirleaf, former president of Liberia, and my dear friend, the Honorable Joyce Banda, the former president of Malawi. Our presenter, our speaker this morning fits into that category. So it's my great delight to introduce to everybody Dr. Arikana Chiambui-Quao, and she is now the founder of a wonderful organization called the African Diaspora Development Institute, and she is also the author of a brand new book that I encourage everybody to get a copy of it, Africa 101, The Wake Up Call. I introduce today, my privilege, Dr. Arikana Chiambui-Quao. God bless you, and so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you, Reverend Weaver, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you, Reverend Weaver, for the wonderful introduction. It was indeed also a blessing for me to have met you almost 4 years ago when I was still the permanent representative for the African Union to the US. Ever since the first time I met you with your 1.5 legs, I called it, and, and that cute little walker that you had, every time you talk about it, it brings a smile on my face because it was just the cutest thing I'd ever seen. In all my years of practicing medicine, I hadn't seen that kind of walker, that's the one that you had. But be it as it may, it's been a blessing to have you as someone that I can call my brother. I thank you for all your support, all your Pan-African spirit, and all the great work that you're doing, not only in Africa, but for us Black people around the globe. You have been right there for decades, going back to the days of Martin Luther King back in the 60s. So we truly are blessed to have you and have you leading us and constantly reminding us what it means to be a Pan-African. For that, we thank you. To Reverend Bishop Seth Lartey, thank you again, you too, for all your work that you're doing to promote Pan-Africanism, to promote and remind us as Black people that at the end of the day, the building of the Africa that we want is our responsibility. At the end of the day, we have to pull ourselves, yes, we gotta have the shoes, first of all, to pull ourselves by the bootstraps, but we have to take ourselves out of this conundrum that we found ourselves in as a race. The reality is we don't expect those who put us in this position to stand up and do something about our circumstances. What really saddens me, when you look at how long we've been in these trenches, how long we've been in this maze, how long we've been in this situation, over 400 years, we seem to now just be totally incapable of pulling ourselves together so we can do something about what is wrong with our Black race. So we thank you for championing this conversation. We thank you for championing this movement and constantly reminding us that we need to start from here. This is where the journey began. And this is where we need to come back to the beginning. And of course, it is indeed where the journey began for the world. And the journey began in Africa. Sometimes people forget that. Everybody around the world, including Black people, we're busy running away from Africa. And yet we're blessed to be the inheritors. We're blessed to be the mothers and fathers of humanity. A fact that many have forgotten. A fact that many have forgotten. That as a Black woman or a Black man, you are the mothers and fathers of humanity. So we thank you, Bishop Lartey, for the work that you are doing. I want to thank your congregation and the organizers of the Pan-African Collective, and the organizers and members of your AME Zion Church for inviting me to have this conversation today. I was asked to speak to the issue of Pan-Africanism, the issue of us coming together, and the issue of Black empowerment through unity. A topic that I am very excited to talk about, because when it's all said and done, we Black people are the only race that's totally incapable of uniting for the sheer survival of us, not only in our own small communities, but survival of us as a race. Why is it that we struggle with something so pivotal, an issue that comes so natural to the rest of the people, be it nationalities, be it religious groups, be it any demographic? We as Black people, we struggle with unity. As I sat in my office as the African Union Permanent Representative, I was for the first time surrounded by that sentiment in a way that I felt I was also put in a position to do something about it. Before, when I had dealt with it, it was from a distance, from a position where there was nothing I could do. But now that I was the permanent representative of the African Union to the United States, representing 1.3 billion people on the continent and another 200 million in the Americas, I now felt the need for me to speak out, to address the issue from the core. Because I realized that whatever system they used to brainwash us, no Black person was left out. No Black person was left out. The systematic brainwashing of the Black person was done in such a way that no Black person was left out, generation after generation after generation. And as I tried to unravel it and go back to the beginning, personalize it to myself, take it back to when the colonizers came to my country of birth, which is Zimbabwe, I couldn't help but keep going back to the missionaries. And I think this is an important platform for us to have that conversation. The missionaries and the messages and the instructions they were given on how to treat the Africans. So you have to understand that when the colonizers first came to Africa, they were settlers then. They found some powerful kingdoms with well-established educational and religious systems. And they did not know how to conquer such a people. So they come up with a strategy to say, let's begin to work with their minds. Let's make them believe everything that they have is undesirable and not good, and that everything that they were bringing to us was better. Except they forgot anything that they had already stolen it from us. Because you see, once upon a time, Africa was the center of the world. Once upon a time, Africa was this glorious continent with everything and anything the world could ever think of. A continent that gave the world the Roman Empire, the Greek civilization, the pyramids. A continent that taught the world what it means to be human. All that, they came to Africa. They somehow managed to take it all away from us, own it and claim it to be theirs. What they could not take, they destroyed. And by the time they were done, we were left with an African, with a Black person. This happened long before slavery. It all happened long before slavery. We were left with an African who felt inferior, an African who did not like anything that the African did. But where they really got us, I'm sorry to say, Bishop Lati and Reverend Weaver, I still feel very strongly that they used religion, a good book, the Bible. They used it to brainwash the Africans. They used the good book and misrepresented it to the missionaries, that is, and used it to brainwash the Black people. I often go back to the issue of white angels and black devil. They told us the angels were in heaven. They were the most amazing beings, that we all wanted to be like the angels. they have the good doers. And that they were white. White like the white piece of paper. And they turned around and said, oh, by the way, while we may not look like this white piece of paper, but we're also white like the angels. And that when you come to church, you must worship the angels. But by so doing, you're worshiping white angels that look like them. Oh, by the way, they also said, Jesus Christ, who we know had crimson skin. Jesus Christ, who we know when Herod was trying to kill Jesus Christ, Joseph and Mary were told to run away to Egypt, to go and hide in Egypt, because they knew in Egypt, Jesus Christ would blend with others who looked like him. So we know based on the Bible that Jesus Christ couldn't have been white. Had he been white, they could have sent him to Europe. But they knew in Europe he would stand out like a sore tooth. So we know, based on the Bible, based on the good book, that Jesus Christ was a brown man. But even then, they've now slowly changed him. He has just progressively gotten wider and wider. So when we go to church, we were told to worship the good angels. We were told to worship Jesus, the white Jesus Christ, who looks like them. Every time we kneel down, we're worshiping images that look like them. Then they turned around and told us about hell, and that there is something called the devil, the evildoer. Nobody should want to be like the devil. Run away from the devil. And oh, by the way, that devil is black, just like you. You may not look black like this piece of paper, but the devil is black, just like you. So it is, the lines were drawn. We were told we look like the devil. And we said, okay. And then they told us they look like the angels. And we said, okay. They said, come to church, let's worship the angels that look like us. So every time we go on our knees, we're worshiping images that look like them. We're basically worshiping them and denying anything that represents us. The question I have, this is centuries ago, my brothers and sisters. When I would often give speeches, I would stop for a moment and say, if I may ask all of you, answer this question to yourself. What color is the devil? And I would pause. And I would say, let me guess. Most of you said black. And the room would crack out laughing because most would have said black. And then I would ask, what color are the angels? And once again, I would pause. And I would say, once again, let me guess. Most of you said white. And again, the room would burst out laughing. This is 2020. We still believe in a black devil and white angels. And we wonder why. We do not like who we are. It is deep, my brothers and sisters. Question I have is, who has gone to heaven and seen the white angels? Who has gone to hell and see a black devil with people burning in hell? Who has gone to hell and seen a black devil? It is stupidity of the highest order. And yet we have accepted it, hook, line, and sinker, to our own self-destruction. The question then becomes, to what end? To what end are we going to continue to look at these blatant lies? A friend of mine once told me a joke, which was very much a joke, but so truthful, that lie and truth went swimming. Lie had no clothes, truth had beautiful clothes, but they jumped in the water both naked. Well, lies being naughty, jumped out of the water and took the clothes for truth, wore them and took off running down the village. Of course, truth wanting the clothes back, truth ran out of the water naked, chasing lies. The villagers, on seeing truth naked, started running away from truth and following lies, who was well dressed, putting on truth clothes. The villagers denounced naked truth and followed well-dressed lies. This is exactly where we are, my brothers and sisters. We have been fed nothing but well-dressed lies. And we have taken and accepted them hook, line, and sinker. The issue of our Blackness is part of a greater strategy designed to criminalize Blackness, to demoralize us, to make us hate everything to do with ourselves, and always want to be something that we can never be. Why do we not like who we are? Why are we so easy to manipulate? How long will it take for us to wake up and say enough is enough? Let me take it home a little bit. Let's look at our own Black communities in this country. A Black man could have a shop in a Black neighborhood. He's okay until a Chinaman moves in. And the minute the Chinaman moves in, us Black people will walk right past our brother's shop and we will patronize the Chinaman. Because why? The Chinaman's ice is colder. Let's turn it around. If a Black man was to open a shop in Chinatown, how many Chinese people do you think will patronize him? The answer is zero. That's if you even get a permit to open a shop there. We know these basic facts, that we can never have a business in a Chinese neighborhood and succeed. And yet they are constantly having businesses in our neighborhoods and they are succeeding every day. And we know it. What kind of a disease is this? What kind of a disease is this? And yet we can't seem to get out of it. On CNN, a few years back, Anderson Cooper showed an experiment of little girls, black and white, given black and white dolls. Naturally, the white little girls picked white dolls. What was shocking was the black little girls choosing the white dolls. And when asked, why did you choose the white doll? Their response was, because the black dolls were ugly. These were little girls under 5 years of age, my brothers and sisters. Under 5 years of age, they already knew that that which looks like them was ugly and undesirable. I don't know of any mother who would have sent those black little girls down and said, you're black and you're ugly. I don't know of anybody. The question is, how did these little girls get to know at that young age that that which they represent was ugly? You and I, my brothers and sisters, who are just grown-ups, who were once those little girls, who at a very young age knew that that which we represent was ugly. By osmosis, almost. It's almost as if we've gone genetic mutation. I don't know about you, my brothers and sisters. In my little village growing up in Zimbabwe, being a devil or an angel was based on deeds. Color had nothing to do with it. If I was a little girl, I went to school, I respected my teachers. I brought home good grades. In my village, I listened to my elders. I did as I was told, I did my chores. At every stage of my development, there were certain expectations, and as long as I met those expectations, I knew I was beautiful. I knew I was an angel. The box for beauty and being an angel was well defined, and the choice was yours which box you wanted to belong to. Equally, the box for being a devil and being ugly was also well defined. So one didn't need a constant dose of being told you're beautiful, because you knew, based on your deeds, which box you belonged. And your belonging to that box was not permanent. It was based on your deeds. Why have we allowed these naked truths to pass us by and continue to embrace the well-dressed lies to the detriment of our own race? The police officer who knelt on George Floyd, for these 8 hours and 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that is the personification of a devil. Let's not understand it any other way. It is just the truth like it is. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's understand what has been done to us. And when we understand it from that pivotal level, when we understand that they got us from the core, that's when the healing can begin. Because if we do not understand that simple fact, if we do not understand what has been done to us from a very deep psychic level, nothing we do is going to give us the desired results. No Harvard degree, no Yale degree, no Howard degree, no Meharry Medical College degree can decolonize you, can rid you of the legacy of slavery. That, my brothers and sisters, may I present to you that singularly remain the biggest challenges that we have to deal with. You can give us all kinds of money, billions and trillions of dollars. But if our minds are not in the right place, garbage in, garbage out. You can go to the boardroom table, no matter how much education you have. If you're suffering from the legacy of slavery and the legacy of colonization, nothing you do is going to change our circumstances as a race. Couldn't be that a good thing if we could be the generation that says enough is enough? No more lies. That we're going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. 20 years from now, my brothers and sisters, Bishop Lati, Reverend Weaver, our grandkids will grow up and they're going to ask us, Bishop, Reverend, there were problems with the Black race 20 years ago. Black people were getting killed, had been killed. The lynching took on a different shape. What did you do? What did you do? I would hope the preparation for that answer would begin now, where you can sit your grandchildren, so I can sit my grandchildren, so we can all sit our grandchildren down and say, yes, these were the issues that were faced by our Africa. Yes, these were the issues that were faced by our Black race. And yes, united, we gathered as brothers and sisters, and this is what we did. The African Continental Free Trade Area is a humongous opportunity for the children of Africa to unite and go back home and build the Africa that we want for a change. So we united. We pulled on financial resources together. We pulled our expertise together. We embraced our Africa, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We embraced our Blackness for who we are, the beautiful, intelligent, sophisticated, highly adaptable, and totally indestructible people. We came together and we spoke with one voice. We built the Africa that we wanted. We took that seat that had our name, the seat that had been taken by those who sought out to exploit us for centuries. We took that seat and we got on the driver's seat. While the mission may not be complete, this is what we put together, united. The onus is now on you, grandchildren, to call on your brothers and sisters together and unite and continue the journey. Pick up where we left. And that, grandchildren, you must continue this fight till the mission is accomplished. Now for us to answer the question for our grandkids, grandmother, grandfather, there were problems with our beloved continent. There were problems with our Black race. What did you do? They lied to us about who we are as Black people. What did you do, Grandma? What did you do, Grandpa? That is a question that you need to answer to yourself. What are you going to tell your grandchildren? Are you prepared to let them go through this life and live it like it is and suffer the way you have suffered and suffer the way our ancestors suffered? Are you prepared to live this world the way it is for your children, grandchildren, and generations to come? I would hope that that answer to that is held to the know. My apologies, Reverend and Bishop, for that word. The status of the Black race on earth must change. We can no longer continue to be the most disrespected people on earth, the inheritors of the most amazing continent on earth, the mothers and fathers of humanity who should be put on the tallest pedestal, and yet are being treated as the scum of the earth. That has got to come to an end. And you and I, united, we can do that. We can accomplish that mission. Africa, the richest continent on earth, is ours. We can either organize, unite to go home and take that which belongs to us, or we can once again sit back and continue to hate each other and dislike each other, and once again watch them through the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is completely opening the boundaries that have kept Africans from trading with each other. The agreement that's opening Africa to be the easiest continent to do business. That organization, the agreement is for us to move in and take care of our Africa. But if we don't unite, it's going to offer opportunities for others who are more than happy to come in and take over Africa, this time for good. Let me remind you that in spite of centuries of exploitation, studies show that they've only taken maybe 10% of Africa's wealth. Every day, more and more natural resources are being discovered in Africa, in your Africa. You know, the Garden of Eden is not somewhere else, it's in Africa. The whole continent is the Garden of Eden. That's your continent. Understand it for what it is, the most amazing continent. So the African Continental Free Trade Area is giving us a tremendous opportunity to come home, united, and be on the driver's seat of Africa's development agenda, continental development agenda. You see, you don't go to China and find Black people driving the development agenda for China. You don't go to Mexico, India, Russia, Japan, Europe, and find Black people driving the development agendas for those regions and those countries. You therefore must not, should not, Kali will not find non-Black people driving the continental development agenda for our beloved Africa. I would hope not. Unless if we children of Africa choose to vacate that seat that has our name. The choice is ours. All we gotta do is wake up. We have a responsibility. If we do not wish to protect what Africa has for ourselves, we have a responsibility to protect it for our children, grandchildren, and generations to come. That we must do. And that conversation begins today. That conversation starts with people like Reverend Weaver, who are tireless in talking about why we must unite. People like Bishop Lati, who are promoting the spirit of Pan-Africanism, the spirit that says, as mothers and fathers of humanity, we must lead. As mothers and fathers of humanity, we got all it takes to rule the world. You see, motherland, you can take all of the United States, the people and the ground, put them in Africa. You can take all of China, the people and the soil, put them in Africa. Take all of Europe, take all of India. They will all fit in Africa and live happily ever after. That is how humongous and rich your continent is. So don't ever let anyone make you feel inferior, because you're not. If I may be brutally honest, the reason we are being mistreated in the manner that we are being treated, it's like a bully who understands their weaknesses. They know what we have, and they know when we lead, we are unstoppable. When we unite, we are unstoppable. But this moment is calling for unity, my brothers and sisters. This moment is calling for us to know the truth and nothing but the truth. This moment is calling for the children of Africa to unite. Over 400 years of servitude since slavery, and many other centuries of exploitation, the time is now to turn the corner. The time is now for the children of Africa to once again rise and take our Africa to her former glory. To a glory where once upon a time we used to wear and make the clothes, we used to make the clothes that we wore, and we also owned the textile mill. In Africa where we built the brick houses that we lived in, but we also owned the brickyard. In Africa where we enjoyed flying airplanes, but we also built the planes, owned the airlines, as well as built the airport and owned the airport. In Africa that wasn't quite happy by just being the conductor of this train or a passenger in this train, but in Africa that says we shall build the train and we will build the railway line and we will own the railway line because we need true ownership. And not just be satisfied to have a job. In Africa is where it's at. The heads of states are calling on the children of Africa in the diaspora to unite. The definition of African diaspora are all people of African descent living outside Africa, regardless of where you were born. If you are Black, you are an African, and you must demand Africa, and it is your Africa, you own it. So, in closing, I'm asking all of you to take a moment and have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. Ask yourself, why do you behave and think the way you do? Why do you find it so difficult to believe not only in yourself, but in your brothers and sisters? Why can't we trust each other just like other races and nationalities do? That deep sense of camaraderie that exists among other races and nationalities, why do we struggle to establish that within ourselves? You don't need to wait for somebody else to believe in somebody else. You do the right thing in your own personal way, do the right thing. I'm not saying we should love each other, no. I'm simply saying at a higher level, we must understand that our sheer survival depends on our unity. The levees in New Orleans, not all of them gave in, only one part gave in. And when one part gave in, the rest was over. Picture us joining hands. It doesn't matter whether you love the brother to your right or the sister to your left. The point is, if you let go, you are going down, the brother to the right, the sister to the left, and everybody else, we are all going down. So whether we like each other or not is not the issue. It's being realistic about the issues at hand. It's being realistic at the challenges that we're being faced at. I'm asking all of you to know our Africa. I'm asking all of you to understand the journey we've been through and what has been done to us. More importantly, the brainwashing and the masterminding of the Black race. It is universal. We are in this ship together. If we do not unite, if we do not come together to patch the holes on this sinking ship, there's no need to change seats when you are in the Titanic, because this boat, that is the Black race, is going down. And it's only the children of Africa who can rescue us. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you. I urge all of you to go to my website, our ADDI.org, ADDI.org, register, let's unite. It is the entity that I established to be the bridge between the children of Africa in the diaspora and our beloved continent of Africa. Let's unite. When we are a minimum of a million strong, there's so much we can do together. I also wrote a book to help us on the journey of healing, of understanding how we got to be where we are today and what we need to do to move forward. You can go to our Africa101.org, Africa101.org. Get yourself a copy. I thank you all for your time. Thank you for listening to me. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Arikana, for those powerful words today, for challenging us, for encouraging us, for speaking truth to power. We needed to hear that, and what you shared today flowed effortlessly with what was talked about on yesterday, and that is how we see ourselves, how we need to begin to love ourselves and see us as God sees us and not as how people portrayed us. And so we thank you for your words today. Lots of comments on Facebook about your message, how exciting they are just because of how you spoke. And I want you to know that I've joined your organization and I have your book, and I cannot wait to read it so that those of us who live in America will not be ignorant about where we've come from and what we have. And so we also have a map that I hope that our technician will show in a little bit, where Bishop Lartey showed us where all of the continents, all of the countries fit inside of Africa. And so it was an amazing sight to see. So we're going to share with people how they can get your book and how they can join your organization. And so again, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing the wealth of knowledge that you have. We're in this journey, on this journey together, in this ship together, and we will sail. Thank you so much. We are going, there's the map right there, as you can see. All of the places that fit inside of how Africa is shaped. And so there is wealth out there. There is greatness in us, and we must remember that. We're going to take a little break. Thank you so much for being with us. And we're going to show Ambassador Arikana's video of how you can get her book and join her organization. We're also asking you, we'll put that on the screen during the break as well, for you to donate to 400 Years Celebration, Inc., as we support Mercy Ships and as we support other dialogues and work like this. You can send in by Cash App, $ 400 Years Celebration. You can mail it in. We'll take it any way that you send it to us. And so you have it on your screen, 400 Years Celebration, Inc., 808 South Lawrence Street, Montgomery, Alabama, 36104. If you want to mail it in, if you want to do Cash App, do 400 Years Celebration. You can also go to our website, www.400yearscelebration.org. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be ready for our panel discussion. Thank you so much for being with us. Share this video with a friend. Invite somebody that they may not miss this rich conversation. See you in a little bit.
À l'école, les pieds faisaient mal, donc ça m'empêchait. Il fallait toujours que j'emprunte la moto pour arriver à l'école. Comme puiser de l'eau, je ne pouvais pas. Même à l'eau change, je ne pouvais pas. Donc j'étais obligée de rester.
Bon, ce qui m'a trop fait mal, c'est parce que partout où Julienne passait, on la regardait toujours mal. Il y a même des gens qui avançaient des mots. Une femme enceinte, elle peut vite se cacher de façon que son enfant ne doit pas ressembler à Julienne. Bon, j'avais ce qui me donnait souvent la force, c'est par rapport à elle-même. Dans ma tête, quand j'ai d'abord vu qu'on a d'abord, Merci Ship a d'abord appelé Julienne, je pouvais d'abord sauter de joie, de mourir de joie. Je n'aimerais même pas eu même un peu de soucis quelque part. Mais je sais déjà qu'ici, là, elle peut déjà s'en sortir dans sa vie sans problème.
Maintenant, c'est que je peux y aller marcher avec mes amis. Peut-être que si on va aller se balader, je n'aurais plus besoin de l'aide qu'attendait un peu. Je m'assois pour me reposer. Je peux y aller marcher comme je veux. Et c'est très fier. C'est pour ça que je remercie Dieu et Merci Chip et tout le monde qui m'a regardé là-bas tout au long de mon séjour.
Almost 40 years ago, I took my first trip from Lausanne, Switzerland by train to Italy to look at ships. I listed some of the things that I didn't know or that I'd heard. Things like, you can't do that. It's way too expensive. I didn't know where we would find the crew. In fact, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was 32. That's awfully young. Almost 40 years ago, God took a huge risk. I could say that it all started with a hurricane or reading a book about the famous SS Hope. I could say it started with meeting Mother Teresa or with the birth of our special needs son, John Paul. Or I could say it began with my parents' simple way with grace and mercy and dignity with their small town helping hands. I could say all of those things about the very beginning of the idea that became Mercy Ships, and they'd all be true.
Mercy Ships is a unique organization because it is bringing services to countries that would otherwise never be able to access those services.
The millions of people who either physically or financially do not have access to healthcare are staggering.
We just see people that need help. You realize that they have no way of getting help. And I want them to know that they're loved.
After the rejection and the ridicule and the hard lives that they've had up until this point, then to have a ward full of nurses and the other ship staff, people just pour out so much love on them. Love does make a difference.
People say to me, well, there's all these millions. How do you think you can change that? And we can change the individuals one life at a time.
The ART platform, surgeons, nurses, professionals from all over the world, offering this free of charge at the highest standards is unique.
If you talk to any of the government leaders, as I have, they will tell you how beneficial Mercy Ships has been, not only for their people, but also in terms of a lasting impact.
We're working hard here to leave a legacy of improved healthcare.
Mercy Ships is particularly good at providing not just training, but training with an imbued sense of needing to pass on the training.
We can work together and do things together that we could never do by ourselves.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back. I hope that you had a good little break, but we're back for the second half of our United Universal Dialogue. What an exciting presentation from Ambassador Aracana. What great information. I hope that you will purchase her book and join her organization. I know that you're not just on Facebook or Zoom or YouTube or on our website because you don't have anything to do. I know that you are here because you're interested in the work that we're doing and how we will partner with others to ensure that the work gets done. And so I hope that you will share this, buy the book. Don't forget Bishop Larte's book, Overcoming Evil with Good. We've got lots of good information for you. We have lots of resources that we would like to share with you. And so we hope that you take advantage of those things. We're now entering into a point where we're going to share in a panel discussion. I'm so excited about the persons we're bringing before you. If you were on yesterday, Mr. Mel Foote, who is again with us today, made the observation that it was mainly men and then me on the panel yesterday, that we were missing the voice of women and we were missing the voice of our young people. Well, today we have women and we have our young people. And so I'm excited to bring them on. Let me begin with Shane Ocean-Laurier, who is a developer, entrepreneur, and political activist hailing from the city of New Rochelle, New York. He is the founder of the information technology firm SingularityHQ.com and the Black economic empowerment nonprofit UrbanLegacy.org. Mr. Ocean-Laurier founded SingularityHQ.com, a technological firm which specializes in web design, mobile app development, advertising, and e-commerce for small businesses. He is under contract with their Department of Development. Singularity helped New Rochelle's District 3 secure Governor Andrew Cuomo's $10 million downtown revitalization initiative grant. Wow, he is doing things. Mr. Ocean-Laurier founded Urban Legacy Foundation Limited with a mission of increasing Black wealth through entrepreneurship, property ownership, intellectual property development, and STEM training. So he is doing a wealth of things and comes with great experience. And so we welcome him today. We also welcome Ms. Janine B. Scott, who has enjoyed a long-standing career of over 35 years in the field of international development, focused uniquely on the African continent and spanning the private, nonprofit, multi-lateral agency and U.S. government sectors, domestically and globally. Presently, she is the founder and principal of America to Africa Consulting, focusing on brokering sound trade and investment linkages between companies in the USA and the African continent. In addition to A2A, Ms. Scott is a director of Petro Africa LLC and its affiliates, a diversified provider of oil field supply and services, and co-founder and managing principal in Mine Africa LLC, which facilitates investments in the mining and related sectors. My goodness, we can't wait to hear these people. Raina Cadaville is a dedicated lover of service, work, writing, and travel. She is a marketing analyst at MasterCard and an MBA student at Johns Hopkins University with a background in international relations. She is also the philanthropy chair of the Women's Leadership Network at MasterCard and the chief executive officer of Urban Refuge, a nonprofit that breaks geographic and linguistic barriers by mapping aid for refugees and immigrants living in large cities. She serves as communications vice chair and young professionals vice chair for the United Nations Association of Westchester and Secretary General of West Moon after 12 years of model UN experience. She is an author of a novel called The Voice of Thunder and is compiling her second book, an anthology called Ignite Your Story. We've got some exciting people, and last and certainly not least, Eric Alberto Reed, who is the CEO and founder of the Cybexo Group, who is an award-winning small business owner and industry expert in designing micro to medium scale chocolate manufacturing facilities. His primary focus is on premium chocolate production. Mr. Reed is a graduate of the Barry Callebaut Chocolate Academy and continues to immerse himself in the world of chocolate confections. Oh my goodness. He specializes in highlighting flavor characteristics through cocoa genetics and the role they play in creating distinct flavors and aroma. One of the things you might want to know is that he was born in Panama, came to live in the United States at the age of 2, received his education in farm management. His extensive experience came from managing over 450 acres of private farmland cultivated with a variety of tropical fruits, including cocoa trees. So we've got a wealth of experience and knowledge on this panel. And so we're going to bring them all on, and each one of them will give you a 45-minute introduction to who they are and based on the topic of what we shared today. And so let them come on. And again, if you have any question for our panelists, please feel free to put it in the chat on Zoom, on Facebook, and on YouTube so that we may ask them their questions. If you're watching via social media, we ask that you would start a watch party, invite somebody else to come so that they may be privy to receiving all of the information that will be shared today. And so we say welcome to our panelists, and we're going to start with Ms. Raina Cadaville. If she would begin to introduce herself and share her spiel.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you all today, especially to recognize such a momentous occasion and with such an incredible movement and organization. So thank you. As a part of the United Nations Association of Westchester, I wanted to speak a bit to the role of people of African descent in building the United Nations as an institution and how the UN is working to elevate this community, both in Africa and all over the world, and how every one of us can be a part of that effort in some way. I want to begin by recognizing the huge contributions that African nations and people have made to the United Nations. There's often a misconception and stigma that Africa receives aid and peacekeepers and does not have the ability to give back, but this is so far from the truth. Many of the 21st century's significant doctrines and practices have arisen from Africa, in fact. For example, the former Organization for African Unity's Refugee Convention of 1969 is still some of the most rigorous and progressive doctrine globally for the protection of refugees. Another example is the Algiers Declaration of 1999, which labeled terrorism as a transnational phenomenon and a serious threat to the stability and security of states. 2 years before 9/11 brought transnational terrorism to the forefront of Western thinking. These policies have foreshadowed some of the biggest crises that are defining the international stage today and provide much needed guidance to other regions and institutions as they navigate these issues. African nations often actually set the example for regional cooperation and unity through the African Union and the Economic Community of West African States, and they often accomplish what the United Nations or Western nations cannot or will not address. African people also contribute to peacekeeping forces in great numbers globally, working on the ground in dangerous conditions to preserve and protect human rights and peace. Africa and the African diaspora have contributed some of the great cornerstone leaders of the United Nations, including two former Secretary Generals, Boutros Boutros-Ghali of Egypt, who first established the Department for Peacekeeping Operations, and Kofi Annan of Ghana, who championed the Millennium Development Goals, established the Human Rights Council, and truly shaped the face of modern-day UN priorities and capabilities, just to name a couple. On the other hand, the United Nations does work with African nations a great deal with the goal of building strong institutions and economic stability. In fact, we're actually living in what the UN has dubbed the International Decade for People of African Descent. The decade began in 2015 and will expire on the last day of 2024. And the goal of the UN is to focus on three things for African people: recognition, justice, and development. The good news is that African nations are currently on track to meet 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals by their deadline in 2030: gender equality, climate action, and life on land. Unfortunately, they do lag behind in many of the others, including quality education, zero poverty, and building strong institutions for all people. This is for a number of reasons, especially including the exacerbated effects of climate change that Africa experiences and issues persisting from the damage of colonialism. The UN currently has 7 active peacekeeping operations spread across various African countries, and other major priorities for the UN in Africa include helping refugees, providing nutrition to children, and combating widespread diseases like Ebola, malaria, and tuberculosis. Importantly, though, it's not just Africa, but the African diaspora that has been at the forefront of the UN's attention in recent years. The growth of harsher and harsher police brutality, disproportionate incarceration of Black people, and the abuse of demonstrators and journalists in the United States has been brought to the international stage, including to the UN, with calls to action for the UN to intervene. Just a few months ago, the Human Rights Council in Geneva heard a plea from George Floyd's brother, urging the members of the council to set up an international probe to investigate the killings of Black people in this country, an injustice that many at the UN have spoken out against. Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, has recently said in response, "This cause is at the heart of our organization's identity. Equal rights are enshrined in our founding charter. Just as we fought apartheid years ago, so must we fight the hatred, oppression, and humiliation today." 28 UN human rights experts charged that these killings, quote, involved impunity, disregard, or depravity toward human life, and the use of public spaces to assert racial control. They also noted that these incidents are unfolding during the COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, has taken a disproportionate impact on people of African descent. What action will be taken by the UN and other international institutions to address the injustices happening against Black people in our country still remains to be seen. However, regular people like you and me can have our voices heard by the UN when it comes to these causes. You can join your local chapter of UNA USA to get involved in advocacy work and trainings and help tell the United Nations what your priorities are for our world and African communities worldwide. If you run a nonprofit organization, you can apply for consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Building effective and sustainable economic wealth and development is a priority, not only for the people of Africa, but the world as a whole, because many of the SDGs, including climate change, life below water, and strong institutions, connect and concern all of us. Failure to meet them in one place will have consequences globally. More importantly, African and African diaspora rights are human rights and should concern us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let us now hear from Shane. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure.
Yes, you're good.
Excellent. Thank you to the 400-year celebration for inviting me. I feel honored to be a guest here, and but from what I've been hearing this morning, it sounds like I'm home. It sounds like I'm among people who understand the dire need that we have and have a sense of urgency to do something about it. I think the best way to begin speaking about my work would be to speak about the work that has happened before me. We have predecessors, not only in the immediate, but I'm speaking to a body that includes believers. So I'm going to speak with a little bit of biblical insight for a moment. We spoke about how religion has been used against us, and it absolutely and unequivocally has. And the reason why it's been used that way is because that power is recognized. The power of God is recognized, and people who are evil will use it and use any means necessary to oppress us, which is why it's been encouraged for us to use any means necessary to become free from our oppression. I want to talk about what God has given us. So I'm going to go all the way back to Moses. God gave Moses a staff and told him to go against a nation state with a staff, because the Pharaoh and all of his power is a nation state. So I want us to think about that for a moment. It's important. He was given a staff, and when he presented himself before Pharaoh to demand his people's release from bondage, there were two sorcerers there that also had staffs, and they turned their staffs into snakes. And Moses dropped his staff on the ground, and God turned his staff into a snake that consumed the other two. Why am I speaking about this? Because racism, global colonialism feels overwhelming unless God gives you a staff. God has given us a staff, and I believe that staff is technology. I believe that the place where we are today, 400 years, 1619 to 2019, we're celebrating the prophecy that just as cyclical as the Bible is, 400 years later, we are going to come out of this land with great riches and be released from the bondage that we're under. It's important to understand these things. It's important to understand the consistency of the power that God gives you. So we have technology available to us. It's been made available to us through the insight that has been provided to us by God. We have to understand these things. So we take technology, and what can we do with it? Well, let's see, what have we done with it over the last several years? Because we're concerned about being able to buck against a system that feels insurmountable, oppression that feels overwhelming and unstoppable. So what have we done? A few years ago, I remember H&M came out with a controversial advertisement that was, I won't describe the advertisement, but I will describe what we did immediately after. After the diaspora in the United States, the diaspora in Europe, and the people of Africa saw those advertisements, we, within the space of days, staged an international protest and boycotted their stores. It did not take months. It did not take a centralized organization or a centralized power. It took us as a people utilizing the staff that God has given us to take power back into our own hands that was taken away from us. Our children are waking up through education. I probably have learned more about my Blackness, about why I should be proud to be Black, why I should appreciate the full history that we have. I've probably learned more about that. I'm 34 years old. I've probably learned more about that within the last 15 years than I have over the first 20 years of my life, K through 12. Why is that? Because again, as it was said, we cannot depend on our oppressors to set us free. It does not make any sense. But information is free with the staff that we've been given. We spread information to each other. We are a storytelling people, allegedly, and now we're finding that out because we're telling our stories through vehicles such as social media, through the propagating of information about different people that have been inspirational in the Black community, and through spreading information about the history that we've survived. We are survivors naturally. How else have we been given power? Well, Black people are waking up through social media and mobile phones as well. We're telling each other our police brutality stories in a manner that we've never been able to tell before. The stories are not new. If you look up how many lynchings there allegedly were, it seems like the number is much smaller than what we've communicated throughout the decades and the centuries. But now, the lie that has stolen the clothes from the truth, the lie is being stripped. And we're stripping that lie by spreading and showing exactly what we're going through as a people in modern times. This is how we emerge from oppression. I'm going to speak tactically today because we are usually speaking emotionally. I want to speak strategically and tactically. What have we done? What can we do? How else? We're sharing our business stories, our experiences, not just as consumers, but as producers, as owners, the things that we've been discouraged from being. We are expected to be consumers, but we are now becoming producers and owners and makers, understanding that the people that hold the keys to production are the people who hold power over their destiny. How else? Our organizations are waking up. I am so elated and proud. Why am I proud to be on this today? Why am I proud to be in this panel discussion today? Because it is another Black-led organization using the staff that God has given you to bring a new forefront to the front line of fighting against racism. We would not have been, probably would not have considered a Zoom conference before COVID emerged. We probably would not have considered the power of social media if social media didn't drive the first Black president to get the status that he had so quickly. A one-term senator became president, and a good one, because of the power of social media and disseminating the power away from those who want to take it all for themselves. So with that said, I'd like to talk about my work. Our organization is Urban Legacy Foundation Limited. Why did we name our organization Urban Legacy? For the exact reason that the ambassador said with her wise words. What will we tell our grandchildren? The legacy of the work that we do today with Urban Legacy, with introducing Black people to STEM training, to entrepreneurship, to the power of intellectual property. That type of work, that type of power is what we want to pass down as a legacy to the future generations of Black people, because they're waking up themselves and they're looking for leadership and they're excited for leadership. They're excited for guidance. And we have to position ourselves and understand that we need to help each other. Robert Smith is the richest Black person in the United States right now. Just in case anybody doesn't understand that, we usually think it's Oprah. We're used to it being through media and through Oprah, but actually Robert Smith he's founded Vista Equity Partners and is now the richest Black person because he's invested in technology firms and he has a proven method of increasing their value and wealth over time. What has he said? Oh, by the way, in case you're not unsure of the name, Robert Smith is the one that donated the $40 million to the graduates at Morehouse, I believe it was. So just in case you don't know who he is, that's who he is. And we have the power of Google, so you could look him up and find out more things about him. But his opinion on how we evolve, how we grow as Black people and how we amass wealth is through intellectual property. Right now, another thing that the staff that God has given us has provided is that it's reduced the barriers to entry for us to enter entrepreneurship. It's reduced the barriers to entry and taught us and provided us the education we need to become service providing, product providing makers and producers. So the next question is, with the staff that God has given us, because remember, we're going up against an oppressive force and we have to be understanding of each other and our shared experience, that not all of us are as bold as the others. What happened when Moses was first given that staff? His doubt stopped him. Of course, God gave him a staff to go up against Pharaoh and the entire Egyptian infrastructure. He went with fear. And why did he have that fear? Because he did not understand the power of the thing that was given to him, or the power that was being provided to him. And that is something that we need to fight against as a people collectively and strategically. The lies that we tell each other and the lies that we tell ourselves. One of the biggest, another part of my role is to be a statistician and look at data. One of the biggest lies that we've told each other and told ourselves is that we cannot be owners. Massa has been a Massa for so long that we don't believe that we can be masters ourselves. We are supposed to master ourselves. So the first lie we tell, we say not everybody could be an entrepreneur. Well, that's probably true. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but there shouldn't be a 50% difference between the entrepreneurship rates of Black people versus white people. There should not be that disparity. We shouldn't be telling ourselves, well, I can't own a home because I don't have the income. I don't know how to own a home. I don't know about the buying process. We've been shielded we've been excluded from the housing market for so long that yes, we don't have the experience with it. Yes, we don't have that intergenerational wealth, but that gap in housing should again not be double the rate versus other races who own homes and own property. We have to move away from the lies that we've been trained for so long to tell ourselves. And the staff that we've been given, the information that we've been provided and become open to within the last several years, the organizational power that we have, the strategic power that we have, the ability to share our experiences, those things cannot be denied any longer. And that's the way to overcome the lies that we've been trained to tell ourselves. China has a developing middle class. India has a developing middle class. And for the last thing that I'll say is that why were they able, these highly impoverished countries and continents, why were they able to emerge and have a budding middle class right now? Because they took the opportunity, they took the staff that was provided to them to emerge from global colonialism. And that's exactly what we need to do as a people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We want you to save some of that for the dialogue. So thank you so much.
I have plenty more.
I'm sure. We're going to introduce to us Janine Scott, who will share with us, and then we'll follow up with Mr. Eric Reed.
Thank you, Dr. McFadden, and thank you to the United Universal Dialogue for having me here this morning to address you. It's really a pleasure, and to give you some thoughts on creating economic wealth and community development, and especially some of the areas that the diaspora may be able to play within that rubric. Just a little bit of context, historical perspective. For me today, I look at it as if we're facing two pandemics. We have the pandemic of COVID-19 and the pandemic of 1619. And by that, I mean that through the latter, it was born of a transatlantic slave trade through which African Americans in particular have borne 400 years of systemic oppression. Similarly, the vestiges of European colonial and post-colonial domination are manifest through systems of inequity, disenfranchisement, underdevelopment, both on the continent of Africa and within Black America as well, we see it. We had the looting of human bodies through slave trade, which deprived the continent of millions of its own human resources while feeding the inhuman practice of slavery in the US, followed by the era of Jim Crow, while the continent of Africa suffered from colonialism and post-colonialism, which also perpetuated the systems of exploitation and oppression. And these have left terrible scars, of course, on all peoples of African descent, especially in the diaspora. But I think we're still in a position, and we are rising. And there is much change afoot in the US as well as on the African continent. And especially we've seen a lot of change economically in the past decade plus. So I believe that it's really rightful and incumbent upon us to come together as Africans and peoples of African descent to work for the betterment of all peoples of Africa everywhere. And it is time for us to build together to capitalize on the synergies and resources we have jointly and severally to build our African continent with our own resources and our own solutions. We have the human capital, we have knowledge and technology, we have financial capital, the opportunities for investment and trade abound on the continent. There are market needs actually on both sides, but we do need to develop more concrete and systematic strategies to enable and strengthen our enhanced collaboration. And we really do need each other for our collective development and uplifting. So the time really is never better for us to join our forces and to seize these many opportunities that are out there. As we know, Africa is the second largest continent, has the second largest population in the world. Majority of it is under 25, so very young, growing middle class, home to vast and abundant resources. The political and economic environment is improving. There is steady growth and prospects for continued prospects of growth on the continent are good. Some of it fueled, or a lot of it fueled by commodities and natural resources, but also non-resource-based investments are taking place as well. I think that we've seen governments across the region increasingly looking at the private sector and more to the diaspora to play a role in tackling many of the pressing development challenges, to reduce poverty, to upgrade and maintain the region's infrastructure, to help find political solutions to health challenges and other things. And they're seeking to really shake off what has been known as the charity narrative and to engage in productive partnerships within the global economy. So we're looking at placing enhanced or increased emphasis on the role of the private sector. And what better time than to leverage the time, the talents, and the treasures of the African diaspora through systemic strategies that we can use together. I'm not going to take all of my notes here. Let me go to some more concrete things that I think we'd like to recommend. I had the privilege this fall to be a member of the Africa Diaspora for Biden National Steering Committee, which was an official organ of the campaign itself. And as part of that committee, we actually put together a series of inputs and policy recommendations, which have been taken into consideration, and we are hoping that they will gain traction when the Biden-Harris team actually takes office in January 2021. And we really do think that there are some important initiatives that they will place emphasis on, and that they have a concerted understanding of the importance of the African diaspora and the African continent engaging. We hope to set up engagement platforms that really can make these engagements a reality. I should also mention, you mentioned Mel Foote. I happen to be the chairman of the Constituency for Africa as well. And we work to advocate on behalf of Africa, African policies, Africa in the diaspora here in the United States. So some of the initiatives that we're looking at, and I use them as examples because in a way it's also reflective of my own work, where I really do work to promote African companies coming together with African American companies, whether it's in the agro processing sector, whether it's in the oil patch or in other sectors. But one of the first ones we said we'd like to do is to enhance trade and investment mechanisms. And that would look at increasing two-way trade between African countries and the USA, with a special focus on leveraging finance and prioritizing investments into the continent. Here we have AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. We're looking beyond AGOA because AGOA is scheduled to come to a close in a few years. More two-way trade has been looked at under what is currently Prosper Africa, and developing businesses and enhancing capacity of African businesses to fit into the trade paradigm. And I think that agro-industry and processing, as well as light manufacturing, are really ripe in this regard. Secondly, we were talking about creating a platform for minority small business partnerships between the USA and Africa. This would involve leveraging resources and convening power of the US Commerce Department, the Chamber of Commerce, US Minority Business Development Agency to facilitate direct interaction between minority-owned and small businesses in the US with those in Africa around business opportunities, capacity building, idea sharing for growth and prosperity. Thirdly, we said that we would like to create an active investment vehicle to catalyze mid-sized businesses. That would help us to seek to create investment vehicles, marshaling our own taxpayer dollars to catalyze investments into African opportunities, spearheaded by generally mid-sized US businesses run by diaspora and African American businessmen and businesswomen. And the returns from these investments would be reinvested in order to grow the size of the vehicles and to further expand the pursuit of business opportunities, engaging both US and African mid-sized businesses in key strategic sectors. We're looking at farming, financial services, housing, energy, infrastructure, and transport. And finally, one of our recommendations was really to look at institutionalizing what was held one time under the Obama administration of the US African Leaders Summit, to focus on how African and African American in the diaspora can take advantage of government resources, the convening power to promote African American and African businesses working together in partnership to grow jobs, fuel economic development, and strengthen the relationship between our two communities. I'll stop there and answer more questions after.
Thank you so much. You all are getting ahead of us. So we're going to ask some of these same questions during the panel so that we can engage one another. But I appreciate what you're sharing. And then last and certainly not least, we want to present Mr. Eric Reed to say his spiel and to share with us a couple of slides that he has for us today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. McFadden, for hosting this. I want to send a special thank you to Reverend Weaver, Dr. Weaver, and I also want to say thank you to Ambassador Arikana. I've met her several times, and I've heard her speak several times. It's always motivating. And one of our panelists here, Janine Scott, how are you? It's been a while, but you know, we hold you in high regards. I'm in the commodity business, agri-commodity business, particularly the cocoa industry. And what I am going to share with you is a presentation that I quickly put together that really encapsulates everything that's in my heart and soul about this industry and how we as people of color can take it and take it vertically integrated in such a way that it becomes an extremely powerful, powerful way of eradicating poverty and increasing wealth within the communities of people of color. This is just an example of one of many commodities that we could vertically integrate. So if we can put the slides up, I'd greatly appreciate it. Dr. McFadden, please. Or is that something that I would do on my end? Or maybe I'll do it on my end. Nope. Perfect. Start from slide one, go back one. Can we go back to the cover page? Very important.
I'm sorry, is this not the cover page? This
No,
is the first page.
Well, there should be one more page before that one.
Okay. You have to give me a second. I thought this was the first page.
Yeah.
Is it this page?
Perfect, perfect.
Okay.
So I like to refer to cocoa as brown gold. And you'll understand why as we move along. But the global chocolate market size is valued at about $130 billion, right? And it is expected to grow about 4.6% from 2020 to 2027. So let me give you my perspective on the industry real quick. So let's flip to page 2. So Spangvola, which is our brand, was ranked as one of the top 10 world's best chocolate shops and chocolates in 2016. And when you look at how they scavenged the world and be selected within the top 10 was an honor, but more than honor was the fact that we were the only ones selected in the United States, okay? And something that I like to say all the time when I go to conferences is whenever you purchase cheap chocolate, you are investing in the poverty of cocoa farmers. And I'm going to explain why. Let's go to the next screen. So let's just look at it just from a perspective of consumption, right? The two leading countries, which Switzerland and Germany, consume the most chocolate, right? The United States consumes about 10 pounds per person. And that's a significant amount of chocolate, right? But let me give you this perspective on the next page. Oh, going the other way. All right. Now, this is a very powerful graph here. If you take Belgium and Switzerland, the combination of the two have a population of 20 million people, okay? Now, both of these countries are considered the mecca of chocolate. However, they don't grow a single cocoa tree. Let me give you some reference. Nigeria is the 4th largest cocoa producer in the world, with a population of 200 million people. and they currently don't make chocolate, and they import $80 million worth of chocolate per annum. You get that? You got two countries that have 10% of the population of Nigeria and are considered the Mecca and the largest consumption of chocolate. Next slide. Now here is where's the eye opener. Let's look at the cocoa value chain. All the way to the left are considered cocoa farmers. If you take 22 tons of cocoa and you export it, the country, not the farmer, makes $47,000. When they export it, the chocolate maker makes $230,000. It's a 389% revenue increase. Now the chocolate maker sells it wholesale to a chocolatier, increases it by 71%, which makes it $394,000. Now the chocolatier sells it to a chocolate boutique, and they make, the chocolate boutique makes $3.2 million, a 716% revenue increase. Now, from the farm to the boutique, there's a revenue loss in country of 6,751% revenue potential. Now, there's a saying that I love to say, which is exportation of your raw commodity is exportation of your cash, jobs, and wealth. Let's go to the next slide. You see, Spangvola, we advocate vertical integration. Now, here's what we do. My wife and I, we purchased a 450-acre farm in the Dominican Republic where she's from. I'm originally from Panama. Both of us are African descent. We own our own cocoa farm. We process our own cocoa into chocolate. We export and import our chocolates. We retail through our own distribution channels. We sell directly to consumers without any middleman. That's where the wealth is. Now, here's what we are trying to understand. There's been a huge change here in the United States. Particularly here in the Washington, D.C. area, there used to be a lot of Giants and Safeways and other type of grocery stores. Now they've been replaced mainly by Chinese, Asian, Korean grocers. But it's all a strategy because products that are made in China and Korea, they don't want to fight for market space in Giant and Safeway. And plus, they don't want Giant and Safeway to just give them an aisle for their, for Chinese and Koreans to shop only in a small aisle. So products made in those countries have a direct market, which is their own grocery store. Okay? Now, let's ask ourselves this question. Do you believe our farmers would be in poverty if we, here in the US and abroad, people of color, primarily purchased the products that were made in Africa? We wouldn't. And let me tell you why. In the United States, our purchasing power of people of color is in excess of $3.6 trillion. $3.6 trillion. Well, where are we spending that money? We're spending it with our oppressors. That's where we're spending it. The minute we make a couple $1 million, we go out and we buy all of the luxuries that are owned by our oppressors. Here's a question that I have for you. When's the last time you bought chocolate? Did you know about Spangvola? If you didn't know about Spangvola, now you know about Spangvola. So we'll put it to the test. We'll see how many orders we'll get after this conference. I'll tell you what, I found out about Ambassadors Ericana's book. I went immediately, right when she mentioned it, I bought 3 books. One for myself, one for my 2 daughters. Let's go to the next slide real quickly. I have a new model. I have a great team that's working with me. And we've had this discussion with numerous organizations, but primarily we've had a discussion with Reverend Weaver at the AME Church. Let me give you the model. Over to the left, what we call our chocolate factories throughout Africa. One of those factories is ours. In the middle, we have a distribution center where all those chocolates come in, and we have 3 segments in which we sell our chocolates. E-commerce, which everybody understands, thanks to Amazon, organizational partners, and our own Spangvola boutiques, okay? Now, every single factory will be retrofitted to produce 4.5 million chocolate bars per year. At $1.80 per bar, which brings it up to about $30 a pound. Right now, they're getting less than $1.20, or actually less than 50 cents a pound for their cocoa. Well, through this vertical integration, they're going to be guaranteed $1.80 a pound. Annual income is going to be $8.1 million per factory. Let's go up to our organizational partners, and what is it that we're doing? We're creating a chocolate subscription and working primarily with nonprofits and organizations like the AME Church and others. What we want to do is we want to partner with the church, and we want to partner with congregations and organizations where we're going to have access to their organization followers and members. And what we're going to do is we're going to tap into that, and we're going to tell our story, and they're going to tell our story. Because when they support Spangvola, they're supporting the motherland. We're moving ourselves from exportation of raw material to export of finished material. So the example that I'm giving here, let's just take, for example, an organization that has 2.5 million members, and we tap into 15% of that membership. That's 375,000 subscribers. With a subscription base of 375,000 subscribers is $207 million of revenue, almost $250 million. Through the partnership with the organization, we pledge 15% of that revenue, because we also pledge another 15% across over to the motherland in what we call a Farmers Development Trust. And that trust is what's going to be used to empower farmers to be able to invest in themselves, in their own infrastructures and things like that. So it's great that we congregate and we talk about the problem that we've done for many, many years. But we know that power comes from economic power. That's where it comes from. And if we also understand that our raw materials have been exploited for years. And by the way, let's first talk about the definition of exploitation. The definition is the action or act or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work. That's what it stands for. We understand what it stands for. What are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? It all comes down to money. If we don't have the economic strength, we will continue to be exploited. Shame on the president and the prime ministers of Ghana and Ivory Coast, where they keep pushing farmers to grow more cocoa. You see, farmers, if you look at an hourglass or a pyramid, because the cocoa industry is a pyramid just like any other commodity. But guess what? The farmers are at the bottom of the pyramid. So when you go to your people and you say, grow more, plant more, you're basically investing at the bottom of the barrel. Because the more you grow, the less valuation your commodity. The less you grow, the more valuation your commodity. And by the way, chocolate was not intended for everybody to consume it. It was for the elites. So it was highly prized. But with colonialism and the use of free labor, because cocoa wasn't even indigenous to Africa, came from the Americas. But the Portuguese and the Spaniards felt that, hey, let's exploit free labor and let's take it to West Africa. It's why the cocoa in West Africa is valuated far less than the cocoa in the Caribbean and the Americas. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, so much. The last time I checked, none of you all are preachers, but y'all are long-winded, but this is good. Let me tell you why. Because we see your passion. We see your love for the continent and the motherland and for what it is that you do. And we are excited. I hope Mr. Foote is looking and seeing that our young people and our women are stepping it up to share their passion. And so I think we have, most of you all shared some recommendations of what it is that we need to do. But one of the things that often happens in America, and I'm sure some other places, is that we're all in our own separate little pockets. And we're all doing our own little things, right? As each one of you have shared what you're doing in your particular line of work. And the question is, and I want to invite Bishop Lartey to join us at this time with this panel. One of the questions that we need to look at as we begin to create this 100-year strategic plan is, how can we all come together to make this work? You know, we all have, each of us have our own little worlds, but how can we bring the worlds together in order to make to reach our goal, to make it work, to rebuild the infrastructure, to make sure that the money, the wealth, the commodity that's in Africa doesn't continue to be exploited and go outside. So anyone can answer that. And we're going to ask that Bishop, that all of you all would unmute yourselves and let's engage in this conversation.
Dare I go first? But I think that one of the best ways for us to join together and come together in a sustainable way, because you don't want to just come together for a day, you want to be able to do it over time. I think for us to do it in a sustainable way, it's excellent that we all are entrepreneurial minded and business minded, because I think what's necessary is income. You need the revenue to keep people engaged. That's how most employees stay engaged with the organizations that they work for. It's a part of their livelihood. We need to figure out how to make activism profitable. And it sounds like those are nasty words or they should be juxtaposed. But if we're admitting and we understand that economics is power, then we need to have a sustainable solution for people to make activism a part of their daily lives. I'll give you one example from our organization, and then I hope that Eric Reed and I can have a conversation later on and figure out how to do it in another way. I'm doing a program, we're shaping a program right now where we're going to be teaching, it's going to be a small investment club. The staffer that I had that pitched the idea to me wanted to make it a mock investment club where we look at the markets, we track stock. And I said, absolutely not. Robinhood exists. Technology exists. Let's use technology like Robinhood to teach kids how to actually take the pennies that they're rubbing together and directly invest them into the stock market. And they could bring their parents and their families as well. We could make it a gigantic game, but it won't be for sport. They'll see a real tangible turnaround from what we're doing with our program. And I hope that I can see Eric Reed later about making it a part of our model to bring chocolate into the hands, because if the Girl Scouts could sell cookies, then I'm sure Black children throughout the United States could sell chocolate.
I like that. I like that. I like that. And who doesn't like chocolate? Who doesn't like chocolate?
Amen.
I love it. I love it.
I think as well, you know, as you've rightly said, Shane, access to capital is really a big factor in what we are doing and what we try to do. And it features on both sides of the equation, both sides of the pond. So I think it's important for us to look at where capital is, how we are able to either raise capital or leverage capital for the types of opportunities that we see that exist, and how we are then able to marry the technology and the other resources that we have at our behest to make those into viable projects and investment opportunities. So when you look at like remittances, for example, therein is one vehicle of capital, but how do you take that pot of capital and ensure that you can put it into investment grade opportunities, into projects that will yield viable and sustainable returns on investments, and projects that are sustainable, projects or enterprises that are sustainable on the ground. So I think looking at how we might be able to create investment vehicles that are coming from our own communities, and to leverage that capital into investment and trade opportunities is going to be one of the key foundational stones of making something happen for our larger community.
I like that. And I'm sure that Mr. Reed will have information, because I'm sure people on Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube, and those of us who are right here are going to want to know how we can partner with you. And because this dialogue is not just a dialogue, the dialogue was to begin not only a conversation, but a call to action. And so you can be assured that with all that we've heard on yesterday and all that we're hearing on today, and we'll hear on tomorrow, that we're not just going to leave it right here. We're going to call people to action. We're going to ask people to put their money where their mouths are, and we're going to make a difference here and on the continent. All right, did anybody else want to speak to that question? Mr. Reed, I can tell you just, you can't even hold it in. Go ahead.
Let me just add this. I think our model is very simple. For instance, 400-year celebration, I will assume, is a nonprofit at this point in time, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as a nonprofit, you're really a business that you need to source funding, right? And you're an organization that is congruent with my philosophy and my mission. So it's a natural partnership right there.
We're already way ahead of you.
Right. So all I have to say is to everyone that's watching this, Spangvola is ready to go to the next level. We've been in business for 10 years, and we are ready to do some serious business. One of the things I didn't share here, and I'll just add real quickly, we set up a factory in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And we're probably, if it wasn't for COVID, we'd be in full production, okay? Nigeria, we were able to garner an award for Nigeria, the first ever. They won an international award with chocolate because of the work that we did. So we are ready and we're primed. All we need is the right partnerships across the board. And I think it's going to be very easily to put a partnership with Spangvola, because let's look at the fact. Who doesn't love chocolate, right? So right. We're ready.
So does that mean some taste testing?
Absolutely, anytime, anytime.
I am a witness. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal
Well,
chocolate.
the next time that I'm home, I'm going to have to stop in and see you, because what woman, person, but what woman doesn't like chocolate?
You don't
So
have to wait. You don't have to wait. Send me a text message with your address, and you'll have one coming to you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. You all have been fabulous today. I am going to turn this portion of our program over to Bishop Larte. He may have some further questions for you. We're going to honor our time today. There will be a response, I do believe, from Dr. Weaver, and then we're going to wrap it up. And we hope that you all will join us again tomorrow. But I yield the floor and the microphone to Bishop Seth Olarte.
Thank you so very, very much, Dr. McFadden. And I listened to all of you, and I'm telling you, I am just blown away when I looked at the model explained by Eric and our sister from the United Nations and our brother. All of you, you were just fantastic. You were awesome. I think, though, that from what I've heard, we know that from what the ambassador pointed out, brainwashing has taken place that will cause us to follow a dressed up lie versus the naked truth. Let me ask you, as we are talking about the need for economic wealth and community development, how do you see and what do you see as the importance of dealing with the mindset of our people?
That is an important question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one that has, as the ambassador earlier said, has really impeded us from making so much of the progress that is kind of readily before us. But very often I say that when someone decides to set the example, that others are persuaded that yes, they too can follow. So sometimes it takes that pioneer or that person who is willing to be the example, to be the exemplar, if you will, and to say, you know what, like Eric has done, I'm going to invest in my people, my continent, and products and commodities that come out of there, and to show the rest of us, the rest of the world, the rest of Africa and the diaspora, that it is possible. And so leading by example is just one way that I can think of in terms of letting it speak for itself.
Anyone else can speak to that whole mentality issue?
Yeah, let me speak to it from this perspective. When we started our chocolate business, we started from a perspective that we wanted to be the best in the world. That was the beginning. That was our market. And we understood that when we opened our boutique, because we have our boutique and we have our factory in the same building, we understood that right behind us, there was a Whole Foods that was selling premium chocolate, labeled as premium. And their chocolate bars are selling at about $5 a bar. When we opened at $8 a chocolate bar. Now we're selling it at $10 and $15 a chocolate bar. They're selling off the shelf. But what allowed us to do that? What we did is we opened our factory to free factory tours. And we've done thousands upon thousands of free factory tours for the last 10 years. And every single time someone came upstairs from that factory, they were ready to buy the store. I think that within our people of color, we need to have a different type of education. You see, if you can take a group of elementary school students middle grade students and high school students and even college level students that visit us every single year. And they get to see a vertically integrated business. And they get to see the power of utilizing your own commodity and turning it into a business. And they can reflect from that, and they can see themselves as if they were seeing themselves in a mirror. That's a different type of education, okay? From reading a book and hearing about our past and hearing about our struggles. But we need to start sharing more of our successes and what can really be. You see, the chocolate industry is really a Caucasian industry, been like that forever. The only thing that we were relegated to was just the farm. Well, we've proven to them wrong. And we've proven to them that we can be one of the best, right? So that's the kind of education that we need to really start demonstrating. I mean, what education do we get visiting the aquarium every year? Right? So that's my point of view.
And I think that's very, very powerful. You know, as you were talking, I reflected on a program that tries to encourage young people from getting involved in trouble and ended up in jail. And what the program does, it would take them on a weekend and take them actually to the jailhouse to see it. And when they see what happens and the outcome of being in there, that practical visual opportunity in fact does something to them that they've chosen not to go that route. So I think you are absolutely correct that as a part of decoding our mindset is to expose our people, our children, our youth to excellence, such as what you're pointing out here. And I think we need to also underscore excellence, because mediocrity is not going to work. But like you said, you came out of the gate talking about we will be the best, not just in the corner, not just around the bend, but we will be the best in the world. And you have proven that. So we thank you. Anyone else like to talk to the fact about the mindset? Because I think that what I'm hearing is not so much about we are not able to, but because we've been so indoctrinated into thinking that anything that is Black, as the ambassador said, is associated with hell. And interestingly, this interesting thing on the other level is that I've yet to see a lot of white limousines. When folk are serious about some kind of a night out, is always a Black limousine. When folk are interested in a major event, I see them wearing black toques and when you want to eat some solid whole food, is always colorful. So this business of thinking that Black is evil is a part of the mindset, because when you come to the reality, you will notice that color cars are much more expensive than white cars, and brown bread are a little more expensive than the white bread, and the list goes on. The Black soil is a lot more richer than the clay, white clay, and if you want to really see the stars at night, wait until the skies get black. So, you know, we are beautiful people. We're just beautiful. We're just beautiful. Okay, anyone else before we call Dr. Weaver to give a scholarly response to what we've heard? And Erica, you know, we have to really see how, again, Shan said something interesting, because with what we are dealing with today, if we cannot get people to come to the factory, is it possible for us to have a virtual tour? Say it again.
Absolutely. I'm doing one today for a corporation that they're doing a team building event and chocolate tasting. I'll be doing a virtual tour and virtual tasting for them.
Nice.
Very, very good. Because, you know, we could talk about how we could have that virtual tour on our website, the 400 Years Incorporation. We have network in Africa, all over the place. And I think, in fact, we need to have a conversation. Okay, I want to thank all of you. You've been extremely wonderful. you to
I
know that.
definitely want to answer the question, but it looked like Raina is a pot of gold looking like she's bubbling over. And I'd
Okay,
love to hear her
let's do
answer
that
to the
quickly. Give you a
question.
quick 2 minutes or so, and then we'll call Dr. Weaver.
I will keep
Go.
this very quick. Thank you,
Yeah.
Shane. I just wanted to say from a writer's perspective, there's this old quote that history is written by the victors. And in this case, I think we've been hearing over and over, the victors are, the colonialists, the Western people who came in, took over these regions that are still impacting us today. And so I think to talk about the conversation of changing that narrative, representation, and what we're doing here today, and what your organization does, all these organizations that we all lead here today do, is so important, because it's about putting people of color and women and all of the groups that have been excluded by history and by these victors in front of the mainstream. And as Shane was talking about, the fact that we have social media as this tool means that these groups are no longer excluded from the conversations that happen at the United Nations or in government. And I see so many of my friends and colleagues who are saying, I never would have aimed for that executive role, or I never would have aimed to run for an elected position if I hadn't seen so-and-so, a person of color or woman or whoever it is, do it before me. And so I think it's so important to have these conferences, these conversations, especially now that we have tools like Zoom, to actually make sure that we're spreading our messages. And as Eric was saying, showing and showcasing the successes that people of color and Black people have. So that young people, kids, can learn from them and take our shoes in 10 or 20 years.
I'm going to say something brutal, and I apologize in advance, because what I say is going to sound rougher than what I intend. No revolution requires a majority. No revolution throughout history has ever required a majority. It's at most been 10% of the population fighting to make a drastic and sustainable change. So what I propose for us to change the mindsets of people moving forward, and we're really thinking about our young people because that's the future, the word would be triage. Excuse the brutality of the word, because I mean it for the brutality that it suggests. Mm-hmm. Not all of us are going to be able to come along for the ride, but many of us are ready for the journey. There are populations, I spoke to my godmother who is in politics, has been in politics for decades and has been a part of my grooming process. And she explained to me all of the great things that are happening down south, out west. I have so many friends moving to Texas. It's shocking. I never imagined that a population of my Black friends would be moving to Texas to try to find opportunities. And the reason is that triage. We have to focus on the population that's ready, the population that is open and loving to their Blackness, the population that is ready to become entrepreneurs, the population that is ready to embrace technology. And guess what? Those aren't the same. Those aren't always found in the same person. And the wonderful thing about that is as they interact, they could exchange their best practices. That is actually what corporate strategists do. So the word would be triage. W.E.B. Du Bois spoke about the talented 10th 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. We need to be looking at that top 10% of us in those different sectors to move us forward. So I remember being in honors classes in elementary school or in my general classes in elementary school. And I felt like the teacher never paid me attention because she was paying extra attention to the kids that had extra educational needs. Mm-hmm. And that's why we were separated out into honors classes. I hope that my organization, if any, is focused on the students that are prepared to be honor students, because that's how you inspire others. That's how you create those stories to place on social media of Black excellence and Black success and hashtag that. So triage would be the very painful but very necessary word that I would offer for how we change mindset.
Thank you all so very, very much. And let me say that I hope that all of us will get some chocolate for Christmas. And Eric, if there is a way we can, between now and tomorrow, have some type of banner so that we can promote that and encourage our people that during this holiday season, when all of the gifts are being purchased, that included will be some chocolate, because we have to do that. We have to support each other. We have to elevate one another. And this is the day for us to use, as you said, Shan, the rod that he's given to us is this technology here, because without this medium, we could not have had this kind of conference. It would have cost us to gather people, bring people, but because of this, we're able to meet, dialogue, and share meaningfully. And so I want to thank all of you. At this time, let me just invite Dr. Weaver to give some response to what we've heard today. Dr. Jonathan Weaver, he's the president founder of the Pan-African Collective.
Well, again, Bishop Lartey, let me just thank you initially because of the tremendous vision and leadership that you have provided, not just for this dialogue, but after meeting you 3 years ago and learning of your passion for economic empowerment for Black people and the need for collectivity, I have certainly been very willing and able to continue to have a dialogue and to work with you even on this particular gathering on yesterday and today and on tomorrow. So I'd like to say to everyone that is watching to please don't forget that this will pick up again on tomorrow with some stellar participants, and we look forward to it. But I want to take my time also to extend my appreciation to the 4 panelists, Shane Oshedloye, and also Raina Cadaville, and Janine Scott, and Eric Reed. And let me just say, sorry for that phone going off like that, but let me also say that I would agree that, in fact, this has been most exciting to be able to hear from the 4 panelists. To you, Raina, I just want to thank you for your work with the United Nations. And let me just say that you're absolutely correct. We need to make sure that organizations, particularly those that are led and run by Africans, African immigrants, or even African Americans, to connect with the United Nations. Oftentimes we view the United Nations as some monolithic institution that cannot be connected to. However, it is very, very important for us to do that. To you, Shane, thank you so much for your initial biblical perspective, but also reminding us about the importance of, as you described it, those productive partnerships. And so thank you so much for your words. Janine, my dear friend, for many, many years, when it was mentioned that you had been involved in Africa for 35 years, you must have started when you were 3. But let me just say that, Janine, I thank you so much for your direct experience, your friendship, and the work that we've been able to do together through the Constituency for Africa and the Pan-African Collective. But it's a reminder of how important it is for us to be able to share information. So again, what Janine has done is to let us know about the potential for African-American businesses in particular. So I would hope and pray that, Janine, you would have people to be in touch with you. And Eric, my gosh, let me just share with everybody that when I learned about Eric a few years ago, and I went to the shop, and when I went in, Eric turned to me and he said, you know what, Reverend Weaver, I have been waiting for 8 years to find some way to connect with African-American organizations, and particularly the Black faith community. So Bishop Lartey, you've heard him now, and I want you to know, Bishop Lartey, that the AME Church was the first one he connected with. But having said that, there's room for all of us. And so I'm so grateful, Eric. By the way, when I went into the shop on that day, I'll never forget, he asked me, what would I like to drink? And me with my crazy self said, I'll take a cappuccino. And so it dawned on me, no, let me back up and get that hot chocolate. And I must tell you, finest chocolate, hot chocolate I've ever had in my life. And so I really do want to endorse what Eric has said. That model is something that clearly ought to be instituted, not only within the Black church community, but my goodness, sororities, fraternities, you name it. the Urban League, the NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus. They need to know about not only Specvola and what Eric is doing, but other Black businesses. In the midst of this pandemic, unfortunately, so many Black businesses have gone out of business. But we've got to make sure that we continue to engage in collective development amongst one another. So my word again to you, Bishop Lartey, is this has been absolutely wonderful. I really do believe that also with tomorrow and what we've been able to see over the last 2 days now and tomorrow, that for the African-American community, the best is yet to come. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Weaver. And I thought that I had settled on the chocolate until you talked about the hot chocolate. So you're just making me want to get on the plane or get in the car, go do something. Because imagine having hot chocolate in every church. Eric, did you hear that?
Loud and clear.
Imagine having some hot chocolate in every church. So we've just got to talk. We just got to talk, and thank you so much when we talk about community development, and want to thank our sister Scott for what you all have done with the Biden campaign, etc. In closing today, I want you to know that the 400 Years Celebration, Inc. is not just one of your regular conversational kind of organization that talks about the need to talk. And then when we meet, we talk about what we're going to talk about. And after we talk, we continue to talk about what we need to talk about and continue to talk and talk and talk. That's not us. We are about action. We are about strategic action to bring about transformation. And that's the reason why I was so excited yesterday when we talked about developing a 100 years plan. Because I tell you this, I was in a community, and the community was, as you know, in most of our communities, sometimes look like it's run down. And that's because we're spending too much time on the other side trying to make the other people's yard and facilities look nice. And so I told our church, let's do a cleanup campaign. So we said we're going to do it for a week. A week went by and no one participated. We said we'll try for a month. A month went by and folks asked us, what are you all trying to do? And so we said, we'll do it for a whole year. And once we expanded the life of the campaign, a gentleman who was in the area spent $45,000 to improve his business because he saw that his business could no longer be what it looked like with the exterior of the community being cleaned up. And that's the reason why I think that if we were to put a 100 years plan together to address the things that we're talking about, then we'll have something to bite on every year so that even when we are gone, the Erics of the world, the Shans of the world, the Scotts of the world, and their ideas, and our sister Janine and others, that whatever you have shared today, we'll find a place to expand that knowledge. So the next step from this, hopefully by tomorrow, we'll have a list that people can sign up, because we will have at least 12 basic commissions that will look at all of these various areas to develop some white papers. And Mel, we're going to be leaning on you tremendously. And then we're going to come back. We're going to come back and begin to put some pieces together to lead us in 2021 to have the 100 Years Agenda Conference, so that we put all of the pieces together. We need a place, a repository where all of the pieces can be put together. The business, the health, the education, the economics, the communication, the engineering. We need a place where all of the information is placed together. And as I said, to those who are interested in business, this organization, the Pan-African Collective, is an organism that I believe will be a bridge to help us connect the continent with the rest of the world, because the leader of this organization, Dr. Weaver, didn't just start today. It's almost like in the case of Jesus. Jesus didn't just show up because of sin. It was before the foundation of the world. Before the Black Lives Matter and other organizations, Dr. Weaver was on the ground with Crossroad Africa and other organizations doing the work of connectivity. And so I believe we have all of the players together, and that's the reason why we want to create a team that will bring about a new day. I like what the brother said, that movements and revolutions really are not because of the majority. I remember coming from Brazil once upon a time, and I was sitting beside an individual, and I asked him the same question. He said, all you need is one crazy person who's passionate about his idea or ideas, and you can bring about a change. We want to thank all of you today. We're going to be back here on tomorrow. Come prepared to sign up because we want you to be a part of the ongoing process. We also want you to help us because you saw what the Mercy Ship does. The Mercy Ship goes to places where you do not have your elegant, majestic hospitals, and provide health for some of those very critical people that you saw. Mercy Ship is an organization that really operates by faith. And we want to not just be talking about it, we want to be a participant that's actually given to make a difference. So while we may not be able to go to Africa, go to some places where people are hurting this Christmas, when this is over with, we like to present a gift to Mercy Ship. And if you will help us when the banner is put up, see how you can give. Now, there are other 400 incorporated when you go to the Cash App. So just make sure you're talking about 400 years Celebration Inc. And you have Dr. Kathy McFadden associated with that. And that's how you give to help us. It will be wonderful, wonderful this Christmas season to be able to give a very good, handsome donation to Mercy Ship. Thank you so much. God bless you. We thank our technician today, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we ask your blessings upon all that we've done here today. Bless and keep us ever in your care, and may all that we've done not fall on productive soil, but that it has fallen on productive soil whereby it can grow and indeed make a difference. We thank you in Jesus' name. We thank you in the name of the Father. We thank you in the name of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Thank you. God bless you. We see you tomorrow morning by the grace of God.